The conflict that followed became known throughout the galaxy as the Deathworlder's War. Within 6 months, humanity had moved from a peaceful spacefaring civilization to a military force unlike anything the Dominion had ever faced. Jack's promotion to fleet captain put him in charge of 20 ships, including the upgraded Dauntless. His fleet was assigned to strike deep into Dominion territory, targeting their supply bases and manufacturing centers. Samantha led a separate fleet focused on disrupting Dominion supply lines, while Alan commanded a liberation force with the mission of freeing planets under Dominion control. "Remember," Jack told his crew before their first major operation, "we aren't just fighting for Earth or for the Narani. Every world the Dominion has marked for sanitation is counting on us, whether they know it or not." The early battles revealed a pattern that gave humanity hope. While the Dominion had superior technology, they had critical weaknesses. Their soldiers couldn't function in environments humans found merely uncomfortable. They struggled to adapt to changing battle conditions. And perhaps most importantly, they had never faced an enemy that kept fighting when wounded or surrounded. "It's like they expect us to give up when things get hard," Diana said after a particularly difficult ground operation. Her uniform was torn and dirty, a bandage wrapped around her arm where a Dominion energy weapon had grazed her. Despite the injury, she had led her team to victory. "That's because giving up is what they would do," replied Jack. "They've never had to fight through pain or push past their limits. We've been doing that our entire evolutionary history." As the war expanded, humanity found allies among other species targeted by the Dominion. Refugees from a dozen worlds joined, the human fleets offering knowledge about Dominion tactics and technology. Some even joined human ground forces, though they required special equipment to operate in conditions humans took for granted. A pattern emerged in these allied species. They all came from worlds far gentler than Earth. They marveled at humans' ability to ignore pain, go without sleep for days, or adapt to toxic atmospheres. Some were terrified by these same abilities, but all were grateful to have Deathworlders on their side. 6 months into the war, Jack's fleet achieved a major victory at the Battle of Talon's Edge, a key Dominion shipyard. While the Dominion expected a standard space battle, Jack had other ideas. "They think in terms of ship-to-ship combat," he explained to his captains. "We're going to think like Deathworlders. Instead of engaging the Dominion fleet directly, human ships launched hundreds of small, stealthy pods. Each contained 6 Special Forces soldiers in advanced environmental suits. While the Dominion ships focused on the human fleet, these pods attached to their hulls like tiny parasites. The soldiers cut their way inside and fought through the ship's corridors. The Dominion crews, unused to intruders on their vessels and unprepared for close combat, fell quickly. Within hours, 17 Dominion warships had been captured intact. "They never imagined we would board their ships," Jack said as he toured one of the captured vessels. "They thought the vacuum of space would protect them." The Dominion leadership, for the first time in their history, faced an enemy they couldn't simply overwhelm with technology. Reports from the front lines filled them with growing dread. The humans fight while bleeding. They continue advancing through toxic gas. They operate in radiation zones without protection. They can go days without sleep. The turning point of the war came 9 months after it began. Intelligence gathered by Olivia and her communications team revealed that the Dominion's governing council would be gathering at a space station called Nexus to coordinate their response to the human threat. This was the first time all 5 Dominion species leaders would be in one location. "This is our chance," Jack told the War Council back on Earth. One strike could end this war. The plan they developed was daring. While a large human fleet would engage the Dominion's defensive forces around Nexus Station, a small team would infiltrate the station itself. Their mission: capture the Dominion leadership alive. Diana volunteered to lead the strike team. "My people have fought in every environment on Earth," she said. "Deserts, mountains, jungles, Arctic ice. We know how to adapt and survive. That's what we need for this mission." The battle began with what appeared to be a straightforward attack. Human ships engaged Dominion defenses in a massive space battle around Nexus Station. The Dominion commanders focused all their attention on this threat, not realizing it was a distraction. Meanwhile, Diana's team approached the station from its blind side in a ship designed to look like space debris. They reached the outer hull and prepared for the most dangerous part of their mission. "Suit sealed," Diana ordered as they gathered in the airlock. "Remember, we have 30 minutes to reach the council chamber once we're inside." "What about the station's defenses?" asked one of her soldiers. "The internal security systems?" Diana smiled grimly. "They've already been compromised." In the days before the attack, Olivia had worked with Narani technicians to create a computer virus that would disable Nexus Station's life support systems in certain sections. Not enough to kill anyone, but enough to create chaos and force the Dominion leaders to rely on their personal protection systems. When Diana's team blasted through the hull and entered the station, they found exactly what they had planned for: confusion, emergency alarms, and Dominion soldiers struggling to function in deteriorating conditions. "They're not used to this," Diana told her team as they moved quickly through the corridors. "We are." The Dominion guards at the council chamber were shocked when human soldiers emerged from what they considered lethal environmental conditions. They fired their weapons, but Diana's team had studied Dominion technology and knew how to counter it. Within minutes, they breached the chamber where the 5 Dominion leaders had gathered. "What are you?" asked the lead counselor, a tall gray being with 6 eyes that stared at Diana in horror. "How can you survive in these conditions?" "We're humans," Diana replied simply. "Deathworlders, and this war ends today." The capture of the Dominion leadership ended the conflict in a single decisive action. With their central command structure in human hands, Dominion forces across the galaxy found themselves without direction. Many surrendered rather than face human soldiers in combat. In the aftermath, a new interstellar accord was formed. The Narani and other peaceful species were protected under the Treaty of Earth, which established recognized borders and mutual defense pacts. The Dominion was disbanded, its member species forced to acknowledge the sovereignty of those they had once deemed expendable. 3 months after the war ended, Jack stood on the observation deck of the Dauntless, watching the reconstruction efforts on a formerly Narani world. Blue-green plants were already growing where once there had been only ash and ruin. Olivia joined him at the window. "They're calling us heroes now," she said quietly. "Saviors of the galaxy." "They called us demons." "First," Jack reminded her, "they feared what we are." Henry approached, his tablet filled with data from his latest xenobiology studies. "It's fascinating. Most sentient species evolved in protected environments with stable climates and few predators. We're the anomaly, forged by hardship, danger, and struggle." "So Earth really is a death world?" asked Jack. "To them, absolutely," Henry confirmed. "But that's what made us strong enough to save them. Our harshest challenges became our greatest advantages." Jack watched the stars beyond the window, thinking of the SOS that had changed humanity's place in the galaxy forever. Earth was no longer alone, no longer just another planet reaching for the stars. It was now known as the home of Deathworlders, beings that other species both feared and respected. "Let's hope the galaxy never needs Deathworlders again," he said. Diana joined them, her arm still healing from a wound received during the final battle. "But if they do, we'll answer the call," Olivia finished. As the Dauntless turned toward home carrying the heroes of the Deathworlders' war, a message spread across the galaxy. The beings from Earth, the fearsome Deathworlders, had used their strength not to conquer, but to protect. Perhaps there was something to be learned from these strange creatures who turned the very hardships of their evolution into the salvation of others. And on thousands of worlds, when the stars appeared in alien skies, they looked toward the small, yellow sun that harbored the death world called Earth, and for the first time in galactic history, that gaze held not just fear, but gratitude. The strange beeping noise woke Olivia Barnes from her half-sleep. She blinked hard and looked at her screen. After 8 hours of watching nothing happen at her monitor in Earth's deep space station, something was finally happening. "That's weird," she said, sitting up straight. This wasn't a normal signal from Earth's mining ships or explorer vessels. The pattern was different. Unknown. Olivia's heart beat faster as she called out, "Captain Miller, I found something strange." "Captain George." Miller walked quickly across the room. His face stayed calm. He had worked in space for 30 years and didn't get excited easily. He looked down at Olivia's screen with narrow eyes. "Check it against our alien language database," he ordered. Olivia's fingers moved fast across the touch screen. "I already did. It doesn't match anything we know, but the computer thinks it might be a distress call." "Aliens?" Miller asked quietly. "Looks like it, sir. Should we follow first contact rules?" Miller stood up straight and touched his wrist communicator. "Call Admiral Harrison. Get a team here in 20 minutes. And Barnes, keep this quiet." Soon the station was busy with people rushing around. Dr. Alan Wright, Earth's best alien language expert, stared at the signal pattern while Admiral Patricia Harrison watched with her arms crossed. "It's a distress call for sure," Wright said, taking off his glasses. "Someone out there is in big trouble." "Where is it coming from?" Admiral Harrison asked. Olivia pointed to a star map. "This area about 30 light years away." A small red dot blinked on the dark map. "That's Gliesa 581, Wright said. "We've watched that system for years, never saw any signs of aliens living there." Admiral Harrison's face got serious. "Well, someone's there now and they need help." She turned to Captain Miller. "Send a response, tell them Earth got their message and we'll help them." "Admiral," Miller said quietly, "the rules say we should be careful. This could be—" "I know. The rules." Harrison cut him off. "But if someone's drowning, you don't waste time talking about whether to save them. We're answering this call." As Earth's message traveled through space, no one knew they had just started something that would show the galaxy what humans were really like. 3 days later, the aliens answered. This time, their message included a video. Everyone in the command center went quiet as the screen showed a creature no human had ever seen before. It had 6 arms and legs, a hard shell-like body colored blue and green, and 3 sets of eyes around its head. "We are the Vedrani." The computer translated its whistling, clicking sounds. "Our research base in the Gliesa system is under attack. 19 of our researchers are still alive, but our defenses are failing. Predators are coming. We have no military ships close enough to help. We would be grateful for any help you can give us." The message broke up for a moment, then continued. "Warning. This planet has extreme conditions. Be careful." Admiral Harrison didn't wait. "Captain Miller, get the USS Defender ready to launch in 48 hours. We're going on a rescue mission." "The Defender is a warship," Miller pointed out. "Sending armed forces might send the wrong message." "The Vedrani mentioned predators," Harrison argued. "I'm not sending an unarmed science ship into unknown danger. Besides, the Defender has the best systems for dealing with different environments." As everyone rushed to get ready, Dr. Wright sat quietly in the corner thinking about one phrase from the alien message. Extreme conditions. He understood what this really meant better than anyone else in the room. To the aliens, Earth itself was extreme. Humans had grown up on what aliens would call a death world, a planet with heavy gravity, wild swings in temperature, poisonous oxygen levels, and constant radiation that would kill most species in the galaxy. What humans thought was normal, most space-traveling aliens would find deadly. The Vedrani had no idea what kind of rescuers they had just called. Captain Miller walked over to Dr. Wright. "You look worried. What's on your mind?" Wright looked up. "I think we need to understand what extreme conditions means to them. Their normal might be very different from ours." "Different how?" Miller asked. "Think about it," Wright explained. "We evolved on a planet with strong gravity, oxygen atmosphere, radiation from our sun, and temperatures that swing from below freezing to baking hot. What if they come from a world with weak gravity, low oxygen, stable climate?" Miller's eyes widened as he understood. "So this planet they're stuck on might be a lot like Earth," Wright finished. "And that's why they can't handle it, but we can." Admiral Harrison joined them. "Give me the short version, gentlemen." "Admiral," Wright said, "I think we might have an advantage. If I'm right, the conditions the Vedrani find extreme might be perfectly normal for humans." Harrison smiled slowly. So we're sending the perfect rescue team. Humans who evolved to survive in deadly environments. She looked out at the stars through the station's window. I wonder if they have any idea what's coming to help them. On the Defender, Commander E. Sam Lewis watched his crew prepare the ship. As captain of Earth's newest and most powerful warship, he knew they were making history. First contact with aliens, and it's a rescue mission. His second-in-command, Kate Powell, said as she checked the ship's systems. Not exactly what I expected. Life rarely goes as expected, Lewis replied, especially in space. He looked at the data they had received about the Vedrani. What interests me is why they think the planet conditions are extreme. Our preliminary data shows it's nearly Earth normal. Maybe that's exactly the problem, Powell said. What if they're not built for environments like ours? Lewis nodded slowly. Then they called the right people for help. He turned to the ship's communications. Officer, tell Earth Command we're ready to jump. The Defender is going alien hunting. To save them, not fight them. As the massive warship prepared to make its first jump toward Gliese 581, the crew felt the weight of history on their shoulders. Humanity was about to step onto the galactic stage not as conquerors but as rescuers. What no one yet understood was that sometimes saviors could be more frightening than enemies. The USS Defender came out of its last jump with all weapons ready. The huge warship, Earth's newest and best, had traveled to the Gliese system very fast, pushing its new engines to the limit. On the bridge, Commander Daniel Rivera stood with his hands behind his back, studying the screen carefully. 30 years in Earth's Defense Force had taught him to prepare for the worst but hope for the best. This mission, humanity's first meeting with aliens, deserved his full attention. Sensors show a small building on the third planet, reported Lieutenant Wendy Jackson. Looks man-made. No spaceships in orbit. Any life signs? Rivera asked. About 20 non-human life forms gathered in one place. And something else. Jackson frowned at her screen. Many other creatures surrounding the building. Different biology. The predators, Rivera said quietly. What's our battle assessment? Lieutenant Frank Collins, weapons officer, straightened up. The building seems to have some kind of energy shield, but it's getting weaker. Based on power readings, I think it will fail completely in about 12 hours. Rivera nodded. Communications. Send a message to the base. Let them know help has arrived. Message coming back. Communications officer Natalie Hunt said moments later. Text only. Translation says, thank you for your help. Shield failing soon. 19 researchers still alive. Warning. Planet surface deadly to most space-traveling species. Air contains 21% oxygen. Gravity 9.8 ms2. Extreme temperatures. Several officers looked at each other, some trying not to smile. The conditions described were almost exactly like Earth's. So they're trapped on what's basically an Earth-like planet, Rivera said. And these predators are native to this environment. Exactly, sir. Science officer Eric Foster confirmed. The Vedrani evolved on a low-gravity, low-oxygen world according to the data they've sent. This planet is basically a death world to them. Rivera allowed himself a small smile. But not to us. Who should we send down, sir? Asked Major Lisa Boyd, leader of the Defender's Marine Unit. Prepare your team, Major. Regular environment suits as a safety measure, but if conditions match Earth parameters, we'll be working in our natural environment. Rivera turned to his second-in-command. Commander Peterson, you have the bridge. I'll lead the ground team myself. 4 hours later, Rivera stood in the shuttle bay, watching as Major Boyd's Marines checked their equipment. One last time, 12 men and women, each chosen for this mission not just for their fighting skills but for their ability to think beyond their training. First contact situations needed soldiers who could think for themselves. Remember, Rivera told the team, our main job is to rescue these researchers. We are not here to fight the native creatures unless we absolutely have to. With respect, Commander, Boyd said quietly. The message mentioned predators. If they've surrounded the base, we'll probably have to fight. Rivera nodded. Be ready. But remember, we represent humanity here. Let's show the galaxy what that means. The shuttle flew down through the atmosphere without problems. The sensors confirmed what the Vedrani had reported, conditions very similar to Earth. As they got closer to the research base, the situation below became clear. The building sat in a clearing inside a dense, forest-like area. A flickering energy shield surrounded it, and outside that shield, moving in organized patterns, were dozens of large creatures. "Zoom in," Rivera ordered. The screen zoomed in, showing predators unlike anything they had seen on Earth, yet somehow familiar in how they moved. They had 6 legs, armored bodies, and multiple eyes and ears. They moved with the patient confidence of top predators who knew their prey was trapped. "They're testing the shield," Boyd noticed. "Looking for weak spots." "Smart pack hunters," Rivera agreed. "Where can we land?" "There's a small clearing 50 meters south of the building," the pilot suggested. "We'll be exposed as we approach the shield, but it's the closest option." Rivera made his decision. "Take us in. Major, deploy your people in standard protection. Formation once we land. Let's introduce ourselves to both groups." The shuttle landed with a soft thud, its engines blowing up dust from the alien soil. The back door opened, and humans stepped onto their second alien world. The gravity felt comfortable, almost exactly like Earth. The air, according to their suit sensors, was breathable. Rivera switched his helmet to see-through mode, so his face could be seen. "Movement to our north," announced Corporal Jason Diaz. "The predators have noticed us." 3 of the creatures had broken away from the main group and were coming toward the landing party, moving very fast through the bushes. "Hold positions," Rivera ordered calmly. "Defensive stance only." The lead creature burst from the plants, 30 meters away, its multiple eyes locked on the humans. It stood up tall, showing impressive height and what looked like natural weapons, saw-like arms and what might have been poison sacs. It charged. Major Boyd raised her weapon but didn't fire, following Rivera's orders. Instead, Rivera himself stepped forward, looking relaxed but alert. The creature closed the distance with scary speed, clearly expecting its prey to run away or freeze in fear. What it found instead was something it had never seen before, a Deathworlder standing firm. When the creature was just 5 meters away, Rivera finally moved. His hand dropped to his side weapon, drawing and firing in one smooth motion. The weapon fired with a sharp crack and the creature stumbled, a precise shot having hit what Rivera had guessed was a nerve center. The predator fell down, not dead but temporarily paralyzed. Its friends hesitated, their sense organs twitching, in what might have been confusion. Rivera put his weapon back in its holster and spoke to his team without taking his eyes off the remaining predators. "Move to the shield, standard formation." The Marines moved with practiced skill and the remaining predators backed away, not running in panic but pulling back to think about this new, unexpected threat. At the edge of the energy shield, they could see the Vedrani watching from inside, their alien expressions unreadable but their body language suggesting shock. "Open communications," Rivera said. "Tell them we're here to help." Through the shield, the Vedrani could be seen moving excitedly. Soon a voice came through their translators. You removed your protective helmets?" a Vedrani asked, sounding amazed. "And you confronted a Krivax directly? How are you still alive?" Rivera smiled slightly. "What's dangerous to you is normal to us. We come from a world very much like this one." The Vedrani's 6 limbs moved in what might have been a gesture of shock. "Then the universe is more varied than we knew. Please, can you help us? Our shield will fail soon, and we have nowhere to go." "That's why we're here," Rivera said. "We're going to get you out safely." As he spoke, Rivera noticed more predators, Krivax as the Vedrani called them, gathering at the edge of the forest. They were watching, learning, adapting. These weren't mindless animals. They were intelligent hunters. "Major Boyd," he said quietly, "I think we're going to need a better plan than just walking these researchers back to our shuttle. These predators are smart." Boyd nodded, studying the Krivax. "They're coordinating. See how they're spreading out? Classic flanking maneuver." Exactly, Rivera said. We're dealing with pack hunters with tactical intelligence. He turned back to the Vidrani. We need to know more about these creatures if we're going to get you safely through their territory. The lead Vidrani stepped closer to the shield. We are scientists, not warriors. That is why we are trapped. The Krivax hunt in groups, communicate through scent and sound patterns, and show problem-solving abilities. They found ways to disable our sensors and cut off our path to our landing craft. Rivera took this information in, already forming a plan. Then we'll need to outsmart them at their own game. For the first time since the shield started failing, the Vidrani scientists felt something they had almost forgotten. Hope. Your species, one of them said, is unlike any we have encountered. You face apex predators without fear. On our world, Rivera explained, we were the apex predators, and that means we know how predators think. As more Krivax gathered around the perimeter, Rivera smiled grimly. The rescue had just become a battle of wits between two predator species, one with technology and one with home field advantage. It was time to show the galaxy what humans could do. The leader of the Vidrani outpost introduced himself as Science Director Veshira. His voice through the translator showed both relief and surprise as he spoke through the energy shield. You took off your helmets in this planet's air, Veshira said, his many eyes blinking fast. Our tests showed poison levels that should kill you. Our species grew up in conditions like these, Rivera explained. What's dangerous to you is normal to us. The alien's upper arms made a complex movement that the translator couldn't understand. Amazing. You must come from a very hard world. Major, Boyd tried not to smile. You could say that. The energy shield flickered visibly as they talked, sections dimming before lighting up again. The shield will completely fail in about 8 hours, Veshira explained. Our power cells are almost empty. The predators, we call them Krivax, have learned to test the weak spots. They show troubling intelligence. Rivera nodded. We noticed. What's your escape plan? Our research ship is still in orbit, but the Krivax control the area all around us. Earlier escape attempts failed. 3 of our researchers died trying to reach a clearing big enough for landing. Rivera studied the building's layout on his display. 19 Vidrani researchers, all not used to dangerous environments, would need protection during the trip back to the landing zone. We have 2 options, he told Veshira. Wait for the shield to fail and fight our way out, or create a distraction, and move while the Krivax are busy elsewhere. Before Veshira could answer, Lieutenant Jackson's voice came through Rivera's communicator. Commander, sensors are detecting a large group of Krivax coming from the east, at least 30 individuals, moving together. They're gathering for the final attack, Boyd said. They know the shield is failing. Rivera made his decision. We'll go with option 3. Lieutenant Hunt, contact the defender. I want orbital support ready when I give the signal. Orbital support? Veshira's translator showed alarm. You would bomb the surface? Precision strikes only, Rivera assured him. Enough to create confusion, not ecological damage. He turned to Boyd. Major, place sonic disruptors at 300-meter intervals around the perimeter. Set them to copy distress, calls from smaller local animals. Boyd immediately sent teams of 2 Marines each to place the devices. The Krivax are ambush predators, Rivera explained to Veshira. They respond to opportunity. We're going to give them multiple targets while creating a safe path to our extraction point. The alien scientist seemed confused by the concept. You plan to manipulate their hunting instincts? Exactly, while also showing them that we're not worth the effort. Rivera's face became more serious. Get your people ready. We move in 30 minutes. As the Marines returned from placing the sonic devices, Rivera gathered his team for final instructions. Formation Alpha, he told them. Vidrani researchers in the center. Major Boyd's team in front. Corporal Diaz covering our rear. Non-lethal. Methods where possible, but protect the civilians at all costs. The plan was carried out with precision. As the shield was deliberately turned off, the sonic disruptors activated at the same time, broadcasting the sounds of injured prey animals in all directions except their planned escape route. From orbit, the Defender fired 4 precision energy bursts into uninhabited areas, creating enough ground disturbance to further confuse the predators. The Kryvax responded as predicted, their hunting groups splitting up to investigate the multiple signals. A few spotted the departing group of humans and Vedrani, but these were met with coordinated defense from the Marines. Corporal Diaz showed why he was chosen for the mission when 3 Kryvax tried to circle around their position. Using the difficult terrain to his advantage, he used a series of flashbang grenades that confused the creature's sensitive sense organs without causing permanent harm. The journey to the extraction point was tense but controlled. The Vedrani researchers, despite their physical limitations, followed instructions perfectly, their scientific discipline working well for emergency protocols. When they reached the landing zone, Rivera organized defensive positions while the shuttle descended. Major Boyd, status report? 2 Kryvax approaching from the north, Commander. Larger than the others, possibly pack leaders. Rivera observed the creatures through his tactical display. They moved differently than the others, more carefully analyzing the situation rather than simply reacting. They're learning, he noted, changing their tactics. As the shuttle touched down, Rivera made a decision that would later be studied in first contact protocols across Earth's military academies. Rather than immediately boarding, he walked deliberately toward the approaching Kryvax, stopping at a distance that was close enough for clear observation, but outside immediate attack range. The 2 predators stopped, their attention fully on the strange creature that behaved unlike anything in their experience. Rivera stood perfectly still, making direct eye contact with the lead Kryvax. Then, with slow deliberation, he withdrew his sidearm and fired a single shot into the ground between them. The message was clear across species barriers. I could attack, but I choose not to. The lead Kryvax maintained eye contact for several more seconds, then made a sound that the translation software couldn't understand. The 2 predators turned and melted back into the vegetation. Commander, Boyd called urgently. Final Vedrani are aboard. We need to move now. Rivera backed slowly toward the shuttle, never turning his back on the direction where the Kryvax had disappeared. Only when he reached the ramp did he turn and board, the door closing behind him. As the shuttle flew up toward the Defender, Science Director Vaishra approached Rivera. Your species, the alien said carefully, is unlike any we have met in our exploration. You treated the Kryvax as equals rather than just threats. Rivera thought about this. We recognize intelligent behavior when we see it. On our world, we've learned that respect often works better than simple dominance. A surprising philosophy, Vaishra observed, from a species clearly evolved as predators yourselves. Rivera smiled slightly. Perhaps that's exactly why we understand. Once everyone was safely aboard the Defender, Captain Rivera met with the Vedrani science team in the ship's conference room. The aliens looked much more relaxed now that they were in a controlled environment, adjusted to their preferences. I must express our deepest gratitude, Vaishra said, his translator now working perfectly. Without your intervention, we would not have survived. We're glad we could help, Rivera replied. But I'm curious. Your message said you were a research team. What were you studying on that planet? The Vedrani scientists exchanged glances, their limbs moving in what might be their version of silent communication. We are part of the Galactic Scientific Consortium, Vaishra finally explained. Our mission was to study potentially habitable worlds. By our standards, that planet would be classified as a death world, technically capable of supporting life, but with such extreme conditions that complex civilization seemed unlikely to evolve there. Rivera couldn't help but smile. Yet the Kryvax show signs of developing intelligence. Yes, Vaishra admitted. That is what trapped us. We did not expect predators with problem-solving abilities. Our models suggested that such harsh environments would favor simple survival traits, not complex cognition. On Earth, our homeworld, harsh conditions drove our evolution, Rivera explained. Competition and environmental pressures pushed us to develop both physical resilience and intelligence. We had to outsmart predators, weather, and each other to survive. The lead Vidrani scientist leaned forward. Fascinating. So you believe harsh conditions actually promoted your intelligence rather than limiting it? Exactly. Necessity drives innovation. As the conversation continued, Science Officer Foster entered with data from their scans of the planet. Commander, the Krivaks show signs of primitive tool use in some groups. They're at the beginning stages of what might eventually become civilization. Veshra's limbs moved in apparent excitement. This contradicts much of our understanding of evolutionary development. Most spacefaring species evolved on what we classify as garden worlds, stable environments with moderate conditions. Perhaps, Rivera suggested, the galaxy needs both types, species from gentle worlds and species from harsh ones. Different. Evolutionary paths lead to different strengths and perspectives. As the Defender prepared to depart the system, Rivera found himself reflecting on this first contact. Humanity had entered the galactic stage not as conquerors or victims, but as rescuers. They had shown both their strength and their restraint, and perhaps most importantly, they had demonstrated something the Vidrani clearly found surprising, that creatures forged in the crucible of a death world could develop not just the strength to survive, but the wisdom to show mercy.